What if everything you believed about civilization was orchestrated deception? A magnificent realm once dominated vast territories across 3 continents, flourishing with architectural marvels that defied conventional understanding. Then suddenly, without warning or explanation, this entire dominion disappeared from existence, not through military conquest or gradual decline, but through systematic erasure so complete that modern academia pretends it never existed. This vanished empire didn't fade into obscurity naturally. Instead, catastrophic forces buried its towering metropolises beneath torrents of liquid earth, transforming thriving urban centers into underground crypts. Today, only fragmented cartographic evidence and subterranean remnants bear witness to a civilization that controlled territories spanning from Europe's eastern borders to Asia's Pacific coastlines. Welcome to the forbidden mystery of Tartaria Messindo, an empire so powerful that its very memory had to be eliminated from human consciousness. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, Europe's most accomplished geographers unanimously documented this colossal domain across their most prestigious atlases. French cartographers, Dutch explorers, German scholars, and English navigators all independently verified Tartaria's existence with remarkable precision. These weren't crude sketches or speculative territories marked with dragons and sea monsters. Instead, they presented detailed boundaries, administrative divisions, and sophisticated governmental structures that rivaled contemporary European powers. The cartographic evidence reveals multiple Tartarian subdivisions, independent Tartari maintaining autonomous governance, Chinese Tartari operating under Eastern influence, and Russian Tartari functioning within Muscovite spheres. This complexity suggests a highly organized federation rather than primitive nomadic wandering. Each territorial designation appeared with consistent geographical markers, trade routes, and urban settlements that demonstrated advanced administrative capabilities. What makes this documentation extraordinary isn't just its scope, but its unanimous accuracy across competing nations. Why would rival European powers, constantly engaged in territorial disputes and colonial expansion, agree so completely about Tartaria's boundaries and internal organization? If this empire represented merely unexplored wilderness or loosely connected tribal territories, such precise cartographic consensus would be impossible. Yet by the 19th century's conclusion, Tartaria vanished from official records with suspicious uniformity. Modern educational institutions dismiss these centuries of documented evidence as geographical confusion, claiming mapmakers simply used Tartaria as placeholder terminology for unknown Asiatic steppes, inhabited by Mongol and Turkic horsemen. This explanation dissolves under careful examination. Contemporary historical narratives suggest that expanding Russian territories gradually absorbed these lands through natural imperial growth, necessitating updated cartographic terminology. However, this conventional explanation fails to address the systematic nature of Tartaria's removal from global consciousness. If territorial expansion explained the name changes, why didn't transitional maps show gradual Russian integration? Instead, Tartaria simply evaporated overnight, as though coordinated international directive demanded its complete elimination. Underground researchers propose that powerful governmental entities orchestrated this historical revision to conceal evidence of technological advancement that could threaten established power structures. Perhaps Tartarian society possessed energy systems, architectural techniques, or social organizations that contradicted narratives supporting current institutional control. By erasing Tartarian memory, these forces ensured humanity remained ignorant of superior alternative civilizational models. The mechanism behind Tartaria's physical disappearance involves the Great Mud Flood hypothesis, a proposed global catastrophe occurring during the 18th and 19th centuries that didn't submerge the world beneath water, but engulfed vast regions under liquefied soil. This event allegedly transformed solid earth into flowing mire that swallowed entire cities, preserving their structures beneath hardened sedimentary layers, while survivors rebuilt communities above the buried foundations. Unlike gradual urban development that naturally raises street levels through accumulated construction debris and infrastructure improvements, proponents argue the mud flood represented a singular catastrophic event. Possible triggers include massive seismic disturbances, atmospheric plasma discharges, or deliberately engineered geological warfare designed to eliminate evidence of advanced pre-existing civilization. Seattle's famous underground district provides compelling physical evidence supporting these theories. Entire city blocks exist beneath modern street level, their original ground floors now functioning as basements, their windows positioned at sidewalk height like portals into a buried world. Official historical accounts attribute this phenomenon to late 19th century fires and subsequent urban planning decisions that elevated roadways for improved sanitation and flood control. However, careful examination reveals troubling inconsistencies in these conventional explanations. Why does the burial depth remain so uniform across different construction periods? Why do these subterranean structures display intricate stonework and architectural sophistication that exceeds the documented capabilities of supposed frontier settlements? Construction workers excavating these areas consistently report discovering elaborate facades, precision masonry, and ornate decorative elements that suggest pre-existing advanced civilization rather than hasty pioneer construction. Similar patterns emerge throughout major metropolitan areas worldwide. New York City's subway excavations regularly uncover sophisticated underground architecture featuring vaulted ceilings, detailed stonework, and unified design aesthetics that don't align with documented colonial development timelines. These discoveries suggest a global architectural tradition that predates accepted historical narratives. Chicago's street elevation following the Great Fire of 1871 provides another concerning example. While official accounts attribute raised roadways to post-fire reconstruction efforts, researchers identify buried architectural features suggesting catastrophic soil deposition occurred before the conflagration. European cities, including Paris and London, exhibit identical phenomena, my-former ground-level entrances now serving as basement access points, all coinciding temporally with Tartaria's cartographic erasure. The synchronization between Tartaria's documentary disappearance and worldwide evidence of buried urban infrastructure suggests these events weren't coincidental. If the mud flood served as a weapon in a coordinated reset operation, it would explain both the physical burial of Tartarian cities and the systematic removal of their empire from official records. By eliminating evidence of advanced pre-industrial civilization, controlling powers ensured humanity forgot its true technological and social heritage, relegating subsequent generations to artificially primitive developmental stages. This suppression theory gains credibility when examining the sophisticated knowledge systems Tartarian maps suggest. These documents hint at understanding of global geography, energy manipulation, and social organization that could threaten emerging industrial power structures. Free energy technologies, harmonious governmental systems, and advanced architectural capabilities would undermine the scarcity-based economic models that enabled centralized control over human populations. The systematic nature of this historical revision mirrors other documented attempts to suppress inconvenient archaeological and anthropological evidence. Just as certain discoveries disappear from public awareness or receive dismissive academic treatment, Tartarian evidence faces similar marginalization despite overwhelming cartographic documentation spanning multiple centuries and competing civilizations. Ancient wisdom traditions speak of cyclical civilizational periods, each marked by distinct characteristics and ultimate transformation. This framework reveals 5 distinct epochs of human development, with Tartaria representing the 4th era, a golden age of towering structures and atmospheric vessels that soared between crystalline spires. Their mastery of gravitational manipulation and harmonic frequencies enabled architectural achievements that modern engineering cannot replicate, creating cities that pulsed with living energy drawn directly from planetary forces. This magnificent 4th era succumbed not to natural decline, but to systematic infiltration by forces determined to establish our current 5th epoch, the age of disposability. Our contemporary plastic civilization operates on principles of planned obsolescence, resource scarcity, and technological dependency that keep populations controlled through artificial limitation. The transition wasn't gradual evolution, but deliberate destruction, orchestrated by entities who recognized that Tartarian abundance threatened their power structures built on manufactured need. Why such desperate measures to erase this legacy? A civilization with unlimited atmospheric energy extraction poses existential threats to petroleum monopolies. Harmonious social structures resistant to division undermine political manipulation tactics. Free energy distribution eliminates economic control mechanisms. Advanced healing frequencies challenge medical industry profits. When maps got redrawn and historical floods engineered, these weren't random events but coordinated strikes against human potential. Yet despite centuries of suppression, remnants persist throughout our landscape. Star fortresses continue channeling residual energies through geometric precision. Buried cathedrals still resonate with frequencies that can induce altered consciousness states. Underground tunnel networks maintain mysterious electromagnetic properties. These architectural survivors whisper secrets about our true heritage, suggesting we carry genetic memories of capabilities systematically trained out of our awareness. The most compelling evidence emerges from structures whose proportions defy conventional human occupancy. Standing beneath doorways that stretch 15 feet skyward, climbing staircases requiring unnatural leg extensions, observers confront the possibility these buildings served inhabitants of extraordinary stature. The architectural legacy attributed to Tartarian influence reveals design elements crafted not for ordinary humans, but for beings whose physical dimensions demanded radically different spatial relationships. These magnificent edifices speak of giants who once shaped civilizations with hands capable of manipulating massive stone blocks like children arranging toy building sets. Their engineering achievements demonstrate understanding of acoustic levitation, gravitational manipulation, and harmonic resonance that enabled construction techniques entirely beyond contemporary capabilities. Modern architects studying these structures report discovering mathematical relationships and proportional systems that suggest knowledge of universal principles we're only beginning to rediscover. America's opulent state capitals and Europe's grand opera houses echo this otherworldly precision. Their designs pulse with symmetrical perfection that transcends mere aesthetic choices, incorporating geometric ratios that interact directly with planetary energy grids. Consider Iowa's majestic Capitol dome, its intricate stonework displaying mathematical relationships that align with celestial mechanics. These weren't decorative flourishes, but functional elements designed to channel specific vibrational frequencies through architectural forms. The columnar structures rise like ancient guardians, carved with details that contemporary masons struggle to replicate despite advanced machinery. What hidden knowledge enabled such feats? Evidence suggests mastery of sound wave manipulation, where specific frequencies could lift massive stones into position, defying gravitational limitations through acoustic levitation principles that mainstream science barely acknowledges. These techniques enabled construction without mechanical force, using harmonic resonance to move materials through controlled vibrational states. St. Petersburg's palatial complexes and San Francisco's ornate halls rebuilt following the 1906 seismic event display proportions that exceed practical necessity. Ceilings vault 3 times higher than human comfort requires, while period furniture photographs reveal chairs with elevated seats and tables that dwarf their surroundings. These dimensional anomalies hint at inhabitants significantly taller than average humans, suggesting architectural accommodation for beings of genuinely colossal stature. Historical documentation from the 19th century overflows with discoveries of oversized skeletal remains during mining operations and construction projects throughout American territories. Newspaper archives describe bones measuring 7 to 9 feet in length, displaying robust structural characteristics indicating a distinct racial lineage. Publications from that era, including records maintained by early Smithsonian collections, reported these findings routinely before the remains mysteriously vanished into private storage facilities or faced outright destruction. This systematic concealment raises profound questions about evolutionary narratives and human origins. Acknowledging giant humanoid races would fundamentally challenge accepted timelines and force confrontation with historical periods where multiple humanoid species coexisted. The deliberate suppression suggests these discoveries threatened established academic frameworks and potentially religious doctrines that couldn't accommodate evidence of alternative human development paths. Mythological traditions worldwide reinforce these archaeological discoveries through remarkably consistent accounts. Greek cosmology describes titans, colossal entities who battled divine forces and shaped cosmic structures before their civilization collapsed. Biblical references to Nephilim portray offspring of celestial beings and terrestrial humans, creating giant races that inhabited Earth before the Great Deluge. This flood narrative mirrors the mud flood catastrophe explored earlier, suggesting cyclical mechanisms for purging giant influence from human history. Norse sagas chronicle enormous warrior classes possessing superhuman strength and advanced metallurgical knowledge. Native American oral histories spanning multiple continents recount encounters with red-haired giants who constructed elaborate mound cities, their burial sites yielding elongated skulls and oversized tools that indicate sophisticated technological understanding. These aren't isolated folklore elements, but interconnected cultural memories suggesting actual encounters with Tartarian giant populations. The implications reach beyond historical curiosity into transformative possibilities for human potential. If giants engineered Tartaria's technological marvels, their methods must have incorporated principles that revolutionize our understanding of physics and consciousness. Some researchers propose extraterrestrial guidance, where visitors from stellar systems imparted knowledge of acoustic manipulation and matter transformation through frequency modulation. Contemporary experiments with ultrasonic levitation offer glimpses of these possibilities, demonstrating how controlled sound waves can lift objects through molecular agitation. Scaled to architectural proportions, these principles could explain megalithic construction techniques used in Egypt's pyramid complexes and Peru's Sacsayhuaman fortress, where interlocking stones weighing hundreds of tons were assembled without mechanical lifting devices. Tartarian star fortresses scattered across continents might represent energy transmission facilities rather than defensive installations, their geometric configurations designed to harness terrestrial resonance and potentially facilitate interstellar communication networks. Acoustic evidence embedded within these structures supports advanced frequency manipulation theories. Cathedral interiors and government halls from the Tartarian period exhibit supernatural sound property. Voices carry with extraordinary clarity, while echoes amplify in precise harmonic intervals. These weren't accidental acoustic properties, but engineered resonance chambers designed to manipulate specific frequencies for healing applications, energy generation, or levitation assistance. Modern research confirms sound waves can shape matter through cymatics, alter water molecular structure, and induce consciousness modifications through infrasound exposure. Giants with enhanced sensory capabilities could have mastered these techniques centuries ago, using acoustic manipulation for construction without brute physical force. Ancient astronaut researchers extend these theories, suggesting beings from Orion or Sirius star systems seeded this technology, as depicted in Sumerian cuneiform tablets and Egyptian hieroglyphic sequences showing elongated figures wielding energy-generating staffs. The architectural uniformity spanning global distances supports singular Tartarian knowledge dissemination rather than independent cultural development across isolated civilizations. The veil of secrecy surrounding archaeological discoveries grows thicker when examining institutional behavior regarding oversized human remains. Why do establishments like the Smithsonian Institution maintain restricted access protocols for certain artifact collections? Whistleblower testimonies describe secured storage facilities housing giant mummified specimens, elongated cranial structures displaying DNA markers that challenge conventional anthropological classifications. These aren't casual oversights, but systematic concealment of evidence that could revolutionize understanding of human developmental history. Underground sources within archaeological circles report discovering humanoid skeletons measuring 8 to 12 feet in length, displaying bone density characteristics and cranial capacities that exceed normal human parameters. Advanced genetic analysis allegedly reveals chromosome configurations that don't align with standard Homo sapiens patterns, suggesting either evolutionary branches or hybrid lineages that official science refuses to acknowledge. When these discoveries surface through independent researchers, they face immediate suppression through academic discreditation campaigns or mysterious artifact disappearances. Ancient astronaut researchers propose governmental agreements with extraterrestrial civilizations to conceal hybrid experimentation programs where giant humanoids served as intermediaries between cosmic visitors and terrestrial populations. These towering beings might represent failed genetic experiments or deliberately created guardian races tasked with protecting forbidden knowledge from premature human discovery. Their elimination through systematic extermination campaigns or natural catastrophes removed witnesses to humanity's true origins and potential capabilities. Crop circle phenomena provide another layer of this conspiracy, displaying geometric patterns that mirror Tartarian star fortress configurations with mathematical precision that defies conventional explanation. These intricate field designs appear overnight with electromagnetic signatures, suggesting technology beyond current human capabilities. Rather than extraterrestrial communication attempts, they might represent blueprint transmissions from surviving Tartarian descendants, or automated systems still broadcasting construction templates for energy manipulation facilities. The geometric echoes between crop formations and ancient fortress designs suggest unified knowledge systems spanning temporal boundaries. Star-shaped agricultural impressions display identical proportional relationships to defensive installations built centuries ago, implying persistent information transmission through methods that bypass conventional historical documentation. These patterns encode architectural principles for structures designed to harness planetary energy flows rather than provide military protection. Archaeological suppression extends beyond individual artifact concealment into systematic historical revision campaigns. When construction projects uncover evidence of giant habitation or advanced pre-industrial technology, official protocols ensure rapid site sterilization and evidence removal. Academic institutions receive funding contingent on maintaining specific historical narratives that support contemporary power structures, creating institutional incentives for truth suppression rather than scientific discovery. The Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco exemplifies architectural anomalies that suggest accommodation for beings of extraordinary stature. Surviving remnants from the 1915 exposition display colossal archways and spatial proportions designed for inhabitants twice normal human height. Period photography analysis reveals suspicious editing techniques where human figures appear artificially scaled or strategically positioned to normalize dimensional relationships that would otherwise reveal the structure's true intended occupants. Historical image manipulation represents another suppression vector, where photographic evidence undergoes systematic alteration to conceal giant presence in documented events. Digital analysis of vintage photographs reveals telltale signs of perspective distortion and figure replacement designed to remove oversized humanoids from official records. These editing techniques ensure that visual documentation supports approved historical narratives rather than preserving authentic evidence of alternative human populations. Russia's Hermitage Museum houses collections that include oversized armor specimens dismissed as ceremonial regalia, despite their functional construction details. These metallic suits display wear patterns consistent with actual combat usage while accommodating body dimensions that exceed normal human proportions by significant margins. Metallurgical analysis reveals advanced alloy compositions suggesting technological capabilities that predate accepted industrial development timelines. The acoustic technology utilized by these giant civilizations opens revolutionary possibilities for construction and transportation methods. Peru's Ollantay Tambo demonstrates stone-fitting precision where massive blocks interlock without gaps that could accommodate razor blade insertion. Acoustic testing reveals specific frequency ranges that induce molecular vibrations capable of softening stone materials, enabling manipulation through sound wave application rather than mechanical force. If giant populations mastered acoustic levitation techniques, Tartarian Empire construction becomes comprehensible as symphonic engineering where airships operated in harmonic resonance with ground-based frequency generators. Transportation vessels wouldn't require conventional propulsion systems, but could achieve lift and directional control through electromagnetic field manipulation, synchronized with terrestrial energy grids. This technology would enable silent, efficient travel across continental distances without fuel consumption or mechanical wear. Ancient astronaut connections strengthen when examining UFO activity over giant burial sites like Ohio's Serpent Mound, where electromagnetic anomalies spike during specific celestial alignments. These energy field fluctuations suggest residual technology still functioning within ancient earthwork formations, possibly maintaining communication links with extraterrestrial monitoring stations. Unidentified aerial phenomena frequently appear over locations where giant remains have been discovered, implying ongoing surveillance of suppressed archaeological sites. Academic debunkers counter with architectural explanations focused on grandeur aesthetics rather than functional accommodation for oversized inhabitants. They attribute monumental proportions to Baudrillard's movement principles designed to inspire awe and demonstrate cultural sophistication through impressive scale rather than practical necessity. Skeletal discoveries receive dismissal as hoaxes perpetrated for publicity or medical conditions like gigantism, affecting isolated individuals rather than representing distinct racial populations. However, the persistence of giant-related discoveries across multiple continents and time periods challenges these dismissive explanations. Lovelock Cave mummies displaying red hair characteristics and Sardinia's Nuragic towers supposedly built for Titan occupation maintain consistent dimensional requirements that exceed individual pathological cases. When evidence patterns repeat across geographically isolated locations, systematic suppression becomes more plausible than coincidental misinterpretation. The academic firewall protecting established paradigms from revolutionary discoveries operates through funding mechanisms, publication controls, and career advancement criteria that reward conformity over investigation. Researchers pursuing giant-related evidence face professional ostracism, grant rejection, and publication blacklisting that effectively ends their careers within mainstream institutions. This systematic discouragement ensures that transformative discoveries remain marginalized within fringe communities rather than receiving serious scientific examination. Hidden chambers within Egyptian pyramid complexes contain oversized sarcophagi aligned with stellar coordinates that giants might have navigated during interstellar travel. These burial chambers exceed human dimensional requirements, while incorporating astronomical knowledge, suggesting cosmic awareness that transcends terrestrial limitations. Within Tartarian framework, Egyptian monuments represent outpost facilities for a global empire where giants facilitated communication and transportation between cosmic civilizations. The giant's downfall adds tragic dimension to this historical suppression narrative, whether overwhelmed by numerically superior smaller populations or eliminated through engineered catastrophes. Their advanced knowledge became fragmented into mythological traditions rather than preserved technical documentation. Yet, genetic analysis suggests traces of their enhanced capabilities persist within contemporary human DNA, creating potential for reclaiming lost abilities through proper activation techniques. Contemporary architecture continues displaying these mysterious proportional relationships, with structures worldwide maintaining scale requirements that exceed normal human dimensions. Government buildings, religious institutions, and cultural centers consistently incorporate dimensional characteristics, suggesting accommodation for beings significantly taller than average populations. These persistent architectural patterns imply ongoing influence from entities requiring enlarged spatial relationships. Airship technology represents the most tantalizing glimpse into Tartarian engineering capabilities, where atmospheric vessels achieved unlimited range through electromagnetic propulsion systems rather than conventional fuel consumption. These majestic craft, documented in historical photographs and patent applications from the late 19th century, demonstrated hovering stability and silent operation that exceeded contemporary aviation understanding. Rather than primitive dirigibles prone to catastrophic failure, they represented sophisticated transportation networks powered by crystalline energy harvesting systems. Docking facilities atop metropolitan skyscrapers enabled passenger and cargo transfer without ground-based infrastructure requirements. Historical sketches depicting airships mooring to tall buildings suggest precision navigation capabilities that required advanced guidance systems rather than manual piloting techniques. Official histories minimize these achievements by attributing them to experimental aviation development, despite eyewitness accounts describing luminous phenomena and electromagnetic effects that indicate anti-gravity propulsion methods. The systematic suppression of airship technology parallels broader free energy concealment campaigns designed to preserve fossil fuel monopolies and centralize power distribution networks. If atmospheric electricity harvesting became widely available, existing energy industries would face obsolescence while populations gained independence from controlled resource distribution systems. Cathedral architecture reveals sophisticated acoustic engineering that transforms sacred spaces into massive resonance chambers, capable of inducing altered consciousness states through precisely calculated sound manipulation. These magnificent structures, particularly those displaying Tartarian stylistic influences like Notre Dame Cathedral or Washington's National Cathedral, demonstrate architectural principles that enhance specific frequency ranges in ways that border on supernatural phenomena. When voices echo through these vaulted interiors, they don't merely reverberate but create standing wave patterns that can trigger euphoric experiences or transcendent awareness states. Recent developments in archaeoacoustics research have uncovered remarkable similarities between ancient sacred sites and advanced acoustic laboratories. Malta's Hypogeum underground temple complex utilizes Helmholtz resonance principles to generate infrasound frequencies that directly affect human brainwave patterns, inducing meditative states and enhance cognitive function. These precisely tuned chambers weren't designed for aesthetic purposes, but functioned as sophisticated neurological manipulation devices that could alter consciousness through controlled vibrational exposure. If Tartarian civilization mastered these acoustic technologies, their cathedrals served purposes far beyond religious ceremonies. These structures could have powered mechanical devices through harmonic energy conversion, enabled levitation of massive objects through focused sound waves, or facilitated long-distance communication through acoustic transmission networks. The geometric proportions found in Gothic architecture align perfectly with mathematical relationships that optimize resonance amplification, suggesting deliberate engineering rather than artistic intuition. Contemporary conspiracy researchers propose that modern shadow organizations maintain these acoustic facilities while concealing their true capabilities from public awareness. The New World Order allegedly repurposes ancient star fortresses as tourist attractions, while secretly utilizing their electromagnetic properties for undisclosed technological applications. Unexplained power surges documented near these historical sites might indicate ongoing energy extraction operations that exploit residual Tartarian infrastructure. The systematic suppression of free energy technologies becomes more comprehensible when examining the economic implications of unlimited atmospheric power availability. If crystalline energy harvesting systems could provide boundless electrical generation without fuel consumption, existing petroleum industries would face immediate obsolescence. Conspiracy theories trace this suppression to ancient secret societies that evolved into contemporary Illuminati networks, maintaining technological monopolies through deliberate knowledge concealment and patent suppression. Nikola Tesla's professional destruction exemplifies this suppression pattern, where revolutionary innovations face systematic elimination through funding withdrawal and public ridicule campaigns. Tesla's wireless power transmission experiments threatened established energy distribution networks, leading to coordinated efforts that isolated him from mainstream scientific communities. Government agencies allegedly confiscated his research documentation following his death, ensuring that transformative technologies remained buried within classified archives rather than benefiting humanity. The Hindenburg disaster of 1937 represents another suspicious incident that halted airship development precisely when wireless power transmission technologies approached commercial viability. Rather than accidental tragedy, this catastrophic event might have been orchestrated sabotage designed to instill public fear of atmospheric transportation while preserving dependency on controlled fuel resources. The dramatic media coverage ensured that airship technology received permanent association with dangerous failure rather than revolutionary potential. Star fortress distribution patterns across global landscapes suggest coordinated construction networks that harnessed planetary electromagnetic fields through geometric positioning. From India's Vijayanagara ruins displaying star-shaped layouts to Africa's lesser-documented earthwork complexes, these installations align with geomagnetic hotspots that could facilitate energy transmission across continental distances. Rather than defensive military installations, they functioned as power stations within a planetary energy grid that supported advanced transportation and communication systems. Historical accounts from the 1920s describe unidentified airships appearing over major metropolitan areas, only to be officially denied by government authorities despite multiple eyewitness confirmations. Patent applications from inventors like Otis Carr detail flying vehicles utilizing counter-rotating electromagnetic systems that mirror suspected Tartarian propulsion technologies. These innovations face systematic suppression through regulatory interference and funding denial, preventing their development despite demonstrated technical feasibility. The economic motivations behind technological suppression become apparent when considering wealth concentration mechanisms that depend on resource scarcity. Free energy availability would redistribute economic power by eliminating fuel dependencies, utility monopolies, and centralized distribution networks that enable elite control over essential services. The Illuminati symbolism embedded in currency design and governmental architecture allegedly represents ongoing commitment to maintaining artificial scarcity through technological suppression. Graham Hancock's research into Ice Age civilizations supports the possibility that advanced technologies existed in prehistoric periods before facing systematic destruction through natural catastrophes or deliberate suppression campaigns. Tartaria might represent a post-Ice Age renaissance where surviving knowledge enabled brief technological flowering before facing renewed elimination efforts. Ancient monuments worldwide display evidence of acoustic manipulation, precision stone cutting, and astronomical alignment that suggests inherited rather than independently developed capabilities. Remote Siberian fortifications continue displaying anomalous electromagnetic properties, with local populations reporting luminous phenomena during specific atmospheric conditions. European cathedral complexes demonstrate persistent acoustic effects where choral performances can induce altered consciousness states among listeners. Tesla's confiscated research papers possibly contain technical specifications for tapping these natural energy sources, hidden within government vaults to prevent public access to revolutionary technologies. The 1893 Chicago World's Fair presents compelling evidence for Tartarian architectural inheritance disguised as temporary construction achievement. This spectacular exposition featured over 200 buildings spanning 600 acres, displaying neoclassical grandeur that allegedly required just 2 years of construction, despite technological limitations of the era. The fair's centerpiece structures rivaled permanent architectural masterworks while officially consisting of temporary plaster and fiber composite materials. The construction timeline alone defies logical explanation when examined critically. The manufacturer's and liberal arts building encompassed 44 acres of floor space, sufficient to contain the United States Capitol, Great Pyramid, and multiple cathedral complexes with substantial room remaining. How could predominantly unskilled immigrant laborers achieve such architectural precision amid Chicago's challenging environmental conditions without prior experience in large-scale construction projects? The speed and sophistication suggest renovation of pre-existing structures rather than original construction. Architectural analysis reveals design elements that mirror global Tartarian characteristics rather than contemporary American building techniques. The consistent neoclassical styling, ornate decorative details, and precise geometric proportions align with structures found across European, Asian, and other American locations that display suspected Tartarian origins. This stylistic uniformity suggests inherited architectural traditions rather than independent innovation by fair organizers. The systematic destruction following these expositions raises profound questions about their true purpose. Chicago's White City faced complete demolition shortly after closing, with fires consuming remaining structures in suspiciously thorough fashion. Similar patterns occurred at the 1904 St. Louis Exposition and 1915 San Francisco Panama Pacific International Exposition, where magnificent temporary architecture received immediate destruction despite enormous construction investments. Conspiracy researchers propose these events functioned as controlled revelations where Tartarian architecture underwent brief public display before systematic documentation and elimination. Fair organizers allegedly included high-ranking Freemasons like Daniel Burnham, whose secret society connections enabled access to suppressed architectural knowledge. The exhibitions provided opportunities to catalog advanced construction techniques and embedded technologies before ensuring their permanent concealment through thorough demolition. Masonic symbolism appears throughout fair planning and ceremonial activities, with dedicatory events featuring ritualistic elements that hint at deeper esoteric significance. The geometric layouts of exhibition grounds mirror ancient sacred geometries found in Star Fortress designs, suggesting energy grid applications rather than mere aesthetic arrangements. Illuminati influence allegedly extended through these networks, using public celebrations to mask systematic knowledge extraction operations. The electrical systems powering these expositions demonstrate technological capabilities that exceeded conventional understanding of the period. Over 20,000 light bulbs illuminated the Chicago Fair through alternating current systems that showcased Tesla's innovations, while potentially utilizing underlying Tartarian crystal arrays for energy amplification. The infrastructure supporting such massive electrical demands might have required pre-existing power generation facilities rather than temporary installation of conventional equipment. Ancient astronauts theories propose extraterrestrial involvement in Tartarian technology transfer, where cosmic visitors provided acoustic levitation knowledge and crystalline energy systems to selected human populations. Star fortress alignments with constellation patterns suggest ongoing communication networks between terrestrial installations and stellar monitoring stations. Crop circle formations appearing near these historical sites might represent continued information transmission using geometric patterns that encode technological specifications. The economic implications of free energy suppression extend beyond industrial monopolies into fundamental social control mechanisms. Unlimited power availability would enable decentralized manufacturing, eliminate transportation fuel costs, and provide energy independence that threatens centralized authority structures. The systematic concealment of Tartarian technologies preserves existing wealth concentration patterns while preventing technological advancement that could democratize resource access and eliminate artificial scarcity conditions. The World's Fair phenomena represent more than architectural exhibitions. They functioned as carefully orchestrated revelations of recovered extraterrestrial technology disguised as human innovation. These magnificent structures potentially displayed reverse-engineered artifacts from starfaring civilizations that previously aided Tartarian development, following patterns described in ancient astronaut research. The White City's impossibly rapid construction mirrors the precision-cutting techniques found at Puma Punku, where massive stone blocks fit together with tolerances achievable only through advanced levitation tools and plasma-cutting technologies that exceed contemporary capabilities. Unidentified aerial phenomena documented over fairgrounds during these exhibitions suggest extraterrestrial monitoring operations, with probe craft scanning architectural remnants for technological signatures. The systematic destruction following these fairs parallels government cover-up operations like those surrounding Roswell incident, where evidence of advanced technologies faces immediate suppression to prevent public awakening to humanity's true technological heritage. Yet these exhibitions legitimately introduced revolutionary innovations including zippers, crackerjack confections, and Aunt Jemima syrup, creating cultural touchstones that mask the deeper architectural significance. Academic debunkers emphasize that staff building materials consisted of inexpensive plaster compounds that dried quickly, making them ideal for temporary construction projects. Photographic archives housed in institutions like the Chicago Historical Society display dredging equipment transforming Jackson Park wetlands into exhibition grounds, while demolition records cite structural safety concerns and land repurposing for public parks. However, these conventional explanations crumble when confronting persistent anomalies that defy rational explanation. Fair photography reveals mysteriously empty streets resembling post-apocalyptic landscapes, either from extended exposure times that blurred crowd movements or suggesting deliberately staged emptiness that concealed the true nature of these installations. Digital communities across platforms like Reddit engage in intensive blueprint analysis, discovering inconsistencies such as pre-fair geological surveys, revealing anomalous foundation structures that predate official construction timelines. Social media investigations on platforms like TikTok examine ornate architectural details that question 1890s technological capabilities, while mainstream publications like Bloomberg dismiss these inquiries as architecture's most persistent conspiracy theory. Believers interpret these world exhibitions as temporary displays of mudflood survivors from Tartarian civilization, creating architectural mirages that concealed systematic historical resets, while providing glimpses of suppressed technological capabilities. The connections extend beyond individual fairs into broader patterns of coordinated deception and evidence elimination. The 1871 Great Chicago Fire conveniently destroyed historical records immediately before the 1893 Exposition, creating perfect conditions for concealing architectural origins and establishing new historical narratives. The St. Louis Fair featured human exhibition displays that distracted public attention from architectural investigations through manufactured ethical controversies. San Francisco's post-earthquake reconstruction occurred with impossible speed that echoed Tartarian resilience and advanced building techniques. Government intervention in fair funding through congressional appropriations enabled comprehensive art collection programs, with international pavilions potentially serving as repatriation operations for Tartarian technological remnants dispersed across global locations. Freemason influence within Washington's political establishment created architectural consistency between Capitol building designs and fair aesthetics, suggesting coordinated preservation of specific geometric principles and construction techniques. Post-demolition remnants include scattered elements like Chicago's Japanese garden and museum fragments, but the systematic erasure appears intentional rather than incidental. Original blueprints vanished from archives, while worker testimonies faced deliberate silencing through intimidation or elimination. Ancient astronaut theories propose these fares functioned as public reaction tests for alien-derived technologies, similar to Tesla's electrical demonstrations that allegedly echoed extraterrestrial technological gifts. Contemporary visitors to Jackson Park report experiencing unexplained atmospheric phenomena, suggesting residual energy fields that persist from whatever technological systems once operated within these locations. The fairground lagoons hosted Venetian gondolas that symbolically blended different civilizations, but the real cultural fusion occurred between Tartarian heritage and deliberately constructed contemporary narratives. Critical researchers like Eric Larson documented serial killer activities amid the architectural splendor, which conspiracy theorists interpret as metaphorical representations of dark forces operating within these deceptive exhibitions. Academic institutions dismiss Tartarian civilization as pseudo-history, yet online communities thrive through photographic expeditions documenting architectural remnants and video analysis that labels these fares as destroyed city displays connected to millennial kingdom conspiracy theories. Architecture enthusiasts disillusioned with modernist design principles find validation in these ornate historical examples that demonstrate superior aesthetic and potentially technological capabilities. The architectural concealment potentially operates through mathematical symmetries that encode lost computational systems, with domes functioning as acoustic resonators rather than mere decorative elements. While photographic debates continue raging through archival investigations, key perspective angles remain mysteriously absent from official documentation, fueling continued skepticism about authorized historical narratives. The 1800s emerges as a century of orchestrated destruction, where fires consuming entire metropolitan areas, seismic events cracking continental foundations, and pandemic diseases sweeping away millions represented coordinated components of a great reset operation designed to eliminate Tartarian civilization and establish new systems of human control. This reset concept transcends modern economic terminology to describe deliberate historical erasure, where supposed natural catastrophes functioned as weapons deployed by shadow organizations to bury advanced technological capabilities and harmonious social structures. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871 exemplifies this pattern, consuming 3 square miles of urban architecture while displaying selective destruction patterns that contradict natural fire behavior. The official narrative, attributing ignition to livestock accidents in misses, O'Leary's barn fails to explain selective devastation that spared simpler structures while targeting ornate buildings, displaying Tartarian architectural characteristics. Researchers propose plasma discharge phenomena from atmospheric sources, creating ethereal lightning strikes that produced glassy residues on ruins, reminiscent of vitrified fortress walls found in Scotland and India. These vitrification patterns require temperatures exceeding conventional combustion capabilities, suggesting directed energy weapons that harness atmospheric plasma, states for targeted destruction. The fire's timing, occurring decades after Tartaria's cartographic elimination, aligns suspiciously with urban reconstruction projects that raise street levels over buried architectural layers, concealing mud flood deposits containing unexplained technological artifacts and construction techniques. The San Francisco earthquake of 1906 represents another suspicious catastrophe, where magnitude 7.9 seismic activity provided cover for systematic architectural destruction and evidence elimination. Despite massive ground displacement, construction workers discovered intact facades and elaborate structural designs buried for decades beneath surface levels, suggesting pre-existing interment rather than earthquake damage. Official seismological explanations cite San Andreas fault activity, but conspiracy researchers propose induced cataclysm technologies that amplified natural geological weaknesses through harmonic resonance weapons. Eyewitness accounts describe unusual atmospheric phenomena preceding the earthquake, including luminous displays resembling earthquake lights or plasma manifestations that suggest Tartarian defensive technologies turned against their creators through sabotage or technological backfire. The remarkably rapid reconstruction featuring sophisticated earthquake-resistant designs hints at salvaged Tartarian architectural blueprints being repurposed while original evidence underwent systematic elimination. The Tunguska event of 1908 in Siberian territories, once labelled Grand Tartary, provides additional evidence of directed energy weapon deployment against Tartarian strongholds. This massive explosion flattened 800 square miles of forest without creating impact craters, officially attributed to meteorite detonation, but theorized as malfunctioning Tartarian energy devices or retaliatory strikes using scalar wave technologies. The blast yield rivaled nuclear weapons while producing no residual radiation, suggesting plasma or electromagnetic pulse weapons capable of targeting specific geographical zones. Local Siberian populations reported observing ancient ruins displaying luminous phenomena before the explosion, connecting this event to mudflood theories where liquefied earth formations swallowed urban centers while leaving flattened landscapes that concealed vast underground network systems. The systematic targeting of Siberian territories suggests these represented final Tartarian strongholds requiring elimination through advanced directed energy applications. The Great Mudflood hypothesis emerges as the reset operation's cornerstone mechanism, describing hypothesized geological liquefaction events during the mid-1800s that buried architectural evidence beneath hardened sedimentary layers. Rather than conventional water flooding, this phenomenon involved soil matrix destabilization that created flowing earth capable of engulfing entire urban complexes within hours. Uniform burial depths averaging 10 to 20 feet across continental distances suggest coordinated electromagnetic pulse deployment that destabilize soil particle cohesion through resonance frequency manipulation. Contemporary accounts describe sudden mud surges consuming livestock and residential structures overnight, echoing folklore traditions of earth-swallowing events that preserved cultural memory of these catastrophic episodes. The consistency of burial patterns from Seattle to Moscow indicates singular causation rather than multiple localized incidents, supporting theories of global-scale geological warfare targeting Tartarian infrastructure and population centers. Bermuda Triangle anomalies potentially represent residual effects from damaged Tartarian portal technologies, where energy vortices from mud flood-damaged grid systems continue distorting space-time relationships and causing vessel disappearances through electromagnetic field disruptions. Historical maritime logs from the 1800s document luminous water phenomena and compass malfunctions in these regions, mirroring plasma sightings that preceded reset operations and suggesting ongoing technological instability from damaged ancient systems. World War conflicts potentially functioned as cover-up operations where strategic bombing campaigns and scorched earth tactics targeted remaining Tartarian architectural evidence rather than purely military objectives. European cities faced destruction not only for strategic advantage, but to obliterate architectural clues that could reveal suppressed technological capabilities. Dresden's firebombing and Hiroshima's atomic testing possibly evaluated weapons' effectiveness against sites harboring hidden technologies, while masking excavation operations for buried artifacts. The Spanish flu pandemic represents biological reset mechanisms designed to eliminate populations retaining cultural memory of Tartarian civilization. Its rapid global transmission defied natural epidemiological patterns, suggesting engineered pathogen deployment using ancient biological agents recovered from mud layer excavations. This systematic population reduction removed witnesses and cultural carriers who might preserve knowledge of suppressed technologies and alternative social structures. Beneath the Pacific Ocean's endless expanse lies the submerged remains of humanity's original homeland, Amniti, a crystalline continent where towering spires once pierced through atmospheric layers, their luminescent surfaces channeling oceanic tidal forces into unlimited energy systems that sustained advanced civilizations for countless millennia. This vanished motherland, known as Mu or Lemuria, represents far more than mythological speculation. It provides the foundational link connecting ancient wisdom traditions to Tartarian technological mastery through survivor populations who carried fragmented knowledge across global landscapes after catastrophic submersion events. The beings who inhabited these underwater gardens possessed luminous wisdom that enabled direct manipulation of natural forces through consciousness-directed energy applications. Their crystalline architecture functioned as living systems that responded to mental commands, creating harmonious integration between technological capabilities and spiritual development. When cataclysmic seismic waves triggered by cosmic impacts or planetary pole shifts finally overwhelmed their protective barriers, surviving populations scattered across emerging landmasses, seeding new civilizations with fragments of their advanced knowledge while the majority of their technological infrastructure sank beneath rising ocean levels. James Churchward's pioneering research during the 19th century brought Mu's existence into public awareness through ancient tablet translations he claimed to decipher within Indian monastery collections. These sacred texts described a Pacific paradise predating conventional historical timelines by tens of thousands of years, where telepathic communication and matter levitation represented commonplace abilities rather than supernatural phenomena. Pyramidal structures served as planetary energy transmission stations, while society functioned without conflict through advanced understanding of universal harmony principles. Churchward's archaeological evidence positioned Mu as spanning from Easter Island's monolithic statues to the Mariana Trench's deepest oceanic zones, with colonial outposts extending across Pacific Rim territories that would later become foundation sites for Egyptian, Peruvian, and Tartarian civilizations. The civilization's destruction through pole shift events and volcanic upheavals triggered massive survivor migrations that carried technological knowledge to continental regions, where refugee populations integrated with indigenous cultures, creating hybrid civilizations that preserved fragments of Mu's original capabilities. The parallels between Mu's crystal-based energy systems and Tartaria's theorized atmospheric power harvesting suggest direct technological inheritance rather than independent development. Both civilizations allegedly achieved resource abundance through free energy manipulation that eliminated scarcity-based economic structures, enabling harmonious social organization focused on spiritual development rather than material competition. Their eventual downfall through geological catastrophes mirrors the mud flood liquefaction theories proposed for Tartarian destruction, suggesting cyclical reset mechanisms that target advanced civilizations when their capabilities threaten established cosmic order. Academic dismissal of Churchward's research as fabrication, inspired by Mayan hieroglyphs and Hindu mysticism, overlooks compelling connections between Mu and Lemuria, a hypothetical landmass originally proposed by 19th century biologists to explain identical fauna distributions across Indian and Pacific Ocean regions. Theosophical researchers like Helena Blavatsky reimagined Lemuria as a spiritual sanctuary inhabited by root race populations whose descendants established subsequent civilizations including Atlantis and potentially Tartaria through systematic knowledge transmission across geological epochs. Plato's Atlantean chronicles, drawn from Egyptian priestly sources, describe a naval empire featuring concentric water and land rings, advanced metallurgical capabilities, and technological hubris that ultimately triggered divine retribution through earthquakes and flooding approximately 12,000 years ago. Rather than representing civilization's pinnacle, Atlantis potentially functioned as an intermediate stage where Mu refugees established transitional societies before their descendants migrated eastward to create Tartarian territories across Asian continental expanses. Edgar Cayce's psychic investigations revealed Mu's destruction occurring around 50,000 years before conventional historical timelines, with survivor populations settling in Gobi Desert regions that corresponded precisely with prime Tartarian territorial designations on historical maps. These migrants carried pyramidal construction knowledge that enabled power plant facilities similar to those theorized at Giza or Bosnia, representing Tartarian outpost installations that maintained energy grid connections across continental distances. Cayce's Atlantean timeline, placing destruction at 10,000 years before Christ, coincides with survivor immigration waves reaching Yucatan and European territories, but alternative chronologies propose Tartaria as post-Atlantean Federation systems that combined Mu's spiritual technologies with Atlantean engineering capabilities. This technological fusion explains theories surrounding crop circle phenomena, where enigmatic agricultural formations appearing overnight in fields worldwide potentially represent communication attempts from Muvian or Atlantean descendant populations embedded within Tartarian lineages. The geometric precision displayed in crop formations frequently mirrors star fortress configurations or pyramidal alignment patterns, exhibiting plasma-induced burns and plant node elongations that exceed human hoax capabilities through electromagnetic imprinting from residual ancient devices. Wiltshire formations near megalithic monuments replicate Atlantean ring patterns, while Siberian occurrences evoke Muvian solar symbols, suggesting persistent communication networks attempting contact with contemporary human populations through encoded geometric languages. Ancient astronaut researchers propose extraterrestrial involvement as the unifying element connecting these civilizations, where cosmic visitors provided anti-gravity technologies to mirror refined engineering applications in Atlantis, then preserved advanced knowledge within Tartarian guardian populations until reset operations scattered this wisdom across global cultures. Plato's potentially censored or allegorized accounts parallel Tartaria's cartographic erasure, where both advanced naval civilizations faced systematic historical suppression that reduced technological achievements to mythological fables. Egyptian priestly accounts describing Atlantean conflicts with Athens 9,000 years prior might represent compressed historical timelines deliberately altered by religious institutions, as proposed in Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology research that links Tartarian territories to medieval kingdoms while questioning conventional historical sequencing. The Catholic Church potentially suppressed Mullian Atlantean traditions to centralize biblical origin narratives, burying pagan motherland accounts within heretical classifications to maintain religious authority over human developmental understanding. Survivor migration narratives add profound depth to these connections through accounts of Muvian refugees reaching Mount Shasta in California, where underground city complexes allegedly persist with Lemurian crystal technologies still generating harmonic frequencies within subterranean caverns. Tartarian territories could house similar enclave populations within Siberian wilderness regions, explaining shamanic traditions focused on spirit world navigation and energy manipulation techniques that preserve ancient technological applications. Peruvian Inca civilizations claiming descent from solar deity figures constructed cyclopean walls at Sacsayhuaman using gold-sheeted temple designs reminiscent of Atlantean or Ixalcan metallurgy, while their astronomical knowledge parallels Muvian navigation capabilities. Graham Hancock's investigations into pre-Clovis archaeological sites reveal transatlantic voyage evidence predating Columbus by millennia, suggesting Tartarian fleet operations that maintained post-Mu trading networks across oceanic distances. Romanian Tartaria tablets represent clay artifacts dating to 5,300 years before Christ, displaying proto-writing systems that hint at pre-Sumerian script development, potentially representing Muvian linguistic remnants that reached European territories through survivor migration patterns. While academic institutions dismiss these connections as pseudo-archaeology, enthusiasts identify linguistic bridges between ancient motherland cultures and Tartarian territorial designations that suggest preserved cultural memory rather than coincidental naming conventions. Alternative civilization theories encompass Hyperborea in Arctic regions and Shambhala in Tibetan highlands as potential Mu offshoots whose free energy technologies face modern suppression by shadow organizations fearing societal transformation through unlimited power availability. These Kabbalistic forces allegedly maintain artificial scarcity conditions while concealing evidence of humanity's true technological heritage derived from motherland civilizations. Digital community debates examine whether Atlantean chronologies conflict with Tartarian timelines or merge through alternate historical sequences, where cataclysmic events create quantum overlaps between civilizational periods. Some researchers speculate that pole shift phenomena blend reality streams where Mu's submersion births Atlantean emergence, while Atlantean destruction spawns Tartarian development through cyclical civilization patterns that repeat across geological epochs. Mudflood phenomena potentially echo Muvian volcanic catastrophes through liquefied Earth systems that swallow advanced empires during reset cycles, designed to prevent technological capabilities from exceeding predetermined development thresholds. Historical documentation reveals global legendary convergence on sunken motherland themes, suggesting persistent cultural memory of actual geological events, rather than independent mythological creation across isolated populations. Archaeological evidence at Easter Island displays moai sentinels facing oceanward in apparent vigil for returning Movian vessels, their basalt construction techniques echoing Tartarian monolithic capabilities and connecting to Yonaguni's underwater stepped formations off Japanese coastlines. These submerged ruins potentially represent either Atlantean construction projects or Movian architectural remnants, depending on chronological interpretation frameworks applied to archaeological dating methodologies. Ancient astronauts theories propose Anunnaki involvement in engineering human populations across multiple motherland civilizations, where extraterrestrial genetics created hybrid bloodlines capable of accessing telepathic abilities from Mu, navigation expertise from Atlantis, and energy manipulation from Tartaria. Contemporary human populations potentially carry these dormant capabilities within genetic structures that await activation through proper consciousness development techniques. Crop circle formations might function as awakening calls designed to stimulate latent abilities within survivor-descendant populations, while ancient monument sites serve as activation centers where specific electromagnetic frequencies can trigger consciousness expansion and recovered memory access. These motherland civilizations whisper through architectural ruins and landscape formations, urging contemporary humanity toward curiosity about suppressed heritage and technological potential. Prophetic traditions, including Edgar Case's geological predictions, foretell California's submersion mirroring Mu's oceanic fate, while pole shift warnings suggest cyclical catastrophes that periodically reset planetary civilization development. Tracing Tartarian cartographic evidence to hidden population centers might reveal contemporary locations where motherland knowledge preservation continues through secretive guardian communities maintaining ancient technological applications. The interconnected puzzle of Mu, Atlantis, and Tartaria represents fragmented aspects of humanity's greater developmental potential, where contemporary civilization functions as diminished heirloom compared to previous advanced capabilities. These motherland cultures potentially seeded human populations with technological and spiritual gifts that await rediscovery through careful archaeological investigation and consciousness development practices that bridge historical gaps between lost civilizations and current human potential. Within the hushed prophecies of biblical revelation, two names resonate across temporal boundaries like thunderous warnings from distant realms: Nog and Magog, apocalyptic harbingers destined to unleash devastating hordes upon terrestrial civilization during final cataclysmic confrontations. However, contemporary conspiracy research reframes these entities not as allegorical representations of distant barbarian tribes, but as tangible interdimensional forces that infiltrated and systematically dismantled Tartarian civilization through advanced portal technologies that manipulated space-time fabric itself. Modern theoretical frameworks position these prophetic adversaries as demonic entities or extraterrestrial overlords, whose dimensional realm overlaps the vast Siberian territories that once formed Tartaria's imperial heartland. This geographical correlation gains significance when examining contemporary UFO phenomena, flickering across these regions like spectral warnings of ongoing interdimensional activity, while symbolic events such as the 2014 Sochi Olympic opening ceremony allegedly encoded their triumphant conquest through ritualistic spectacle designed to commemorate Tartaria's systematic destruction. Biblical scholarship traditionally interprets Ezekiel's prophecies describing Gog as Prince of Meshech and Tubal, commanding northern armies destined to assault Israel during end-time scenarios where divine fire reigns from celestial realms. Revelation's expanded narrative portrays these forces as deceived nations manipulated by satanic influence after millennial peace periods, marching across earthly domains before facing divine annihilation through heavenly fire manifestations. Islamic traditions preserved in Quranic verses echo these themes through accounts of Dhul-Qarnayn, often equated with Alexander the Great, constructing iron and copper barriers to contain Yajuj and Majuj, the Arabic equivalent of Gog and Magog. These savage tribal entities allegedly tunnel beneath containment walls, preparing escape routes for Judgment Day emergence when they will devastate civilization before facing ultimate destruction through divine intervention. Medieval cartographic evidence, including the 1375 Catalan Atlas, positions these prophetic entities within Asian wilderness territories, explicitly labeled as Tartaria, where nomadic populations allegedly dwelled beyond civilized boundaries. Conspiracy researchers transform this geographical correlation into evidence of literal dimensional invasion, where Gog and Magog functioned as Tartaria's supernatural nemesis, a malevolent coalition of demonic hybrids or extraterrestrial proxy forces that infiltrated the empire through interdimensional gateways, systematically dismantling advanced civilization from within through spiritual corruption and technological sabotage. The investigative intrigue intensifies when overlaying biblical prophecies onto historical Tartarian territorial designations found in 17th 3rd century cartographic documentation. The 1684 map by Giacomo Cantelli da Vignola explicitly marks Gug and Magog territories within Great Tartary's boundaries, positioned between Black and Caspian Sea regions historically associated with Khazar and Scythian populations that some researchers connect to dispersed biblical tribal lineages. Digital platform discussions highlight these cartographic correlations, suggesting Tartaria itself embodied the prophetic Gog and Magog Empire, Thormaya, a biblically designated antagonist civilization that victorious forces deliberately erased from historical records, while recasting it as the apocalyptic enemy in eschatological narratives. Social media investigations share detailed map enlargements pinpointing Gog and Magog locations within Siberian territories, complete with marked burial sites of Tartarian monarchs, implying royal dynasties that face systematic demonization as prophetic adversaries. These territorial correlations extend to the mysterious Tunguska event of 1908, where massive Siberian explosions flattened forest regions without creating impact craters, potentially representing final energy weapon strikes against surviving Tartarian populations. Rather than meteor impacts, this catastrophic event might demonstrate directed energy technologies deployed to eliminate remaining resistance from populations that retained advanced capabilities threatening emerging power structures. The demonic characterization framework extends into extraterrestrial theoretical territories where Gog and Magog transform into alien invasion forces, breaching dimensional portals, similar to Stargate fictional representations. Ancient mythology and contemporary pseudoscience converge around portal technologies that enabled interdimensional travel through constructed gateway systems, theorized at various global locations including Iraq's Ziggurat and Sri Lanka's Ranmasu-Ueana stone formations. The Iraqi Stargate conspiracy, popularized during early 2000s military interventions, claims Saddam Hussein's archaeological teams unearthed interdimensional travel devices within ancient Mesopotamian sites, potentially guarded by Anunnaki deities and prompting American invasion operations designed to secure these technologies. Similarly, Sri Lankan stone formations display symbolic patterns interpreted as cosmic door activation codes aligned with planetary energy grid intersections. Within Tartarian narrative frameworks, these portal installations become invasion focal points, where Gog and Magog entities access terrestrial dimensions through rifts in Siberian territories experiencing persistent UFO phenomenon. Contemporary reports describe luminous orbs and metallic disk formations over Lake Baikal regions within former Tartarian territories, accompanied by electromagnetic anomalies and craft disappearances that suggest ongoing interdimensional activity or extraterrestrial monitoring operations. The 2014 Sochi Olympics opening ceremony provides contemporary intrigue through elaborate symbolic spectacle that conspiracy theorists interpret as coded revelation of Tartaria's destruction by Gog and Magog forces. Hosted within Russia's territories that inherited former Tartarian lands, the ceremony featured floating architectural structures morphing into ring formations, including one component that famously malfunctioned during broadcast transmission, interpreted as deliberate portal glitch symbolizing breached dimensional gateways. Ceremonial sequences depicted harmonious urban civilization threatened by dark forces emerging from void spaces, initially achieving victory against external threats before facing overwhelming corruption and ultimate defeat. This narrative progression allegedly mirrors Tartaria's historical trajectory from advanced civilization through supernatural infiltration to systematic destruction and cultural erasure. Russian state media coverage of the ring malfunction and subsequent controversies, including doping scandals and discriminatory legislation, potentially served as distraction mechanisms from alleged ritualistic subtexts embedded within the ceremonial presentation. The Putin administration's relationship with suppressed historical narratives gained significance when considering the Black Sea proximity to traditionally mapped Gog and Magog territorial designations, suggesting potential encoded acknowledgement of these prophetic connections. Masonic or Illuminati interpretations propose the ceremony as ritualistic pageantry, where portal symbolism appeared through floating snowflake formations, while demonic forces received representation through international athletic participants. The geographical significance of Sochi's location near historically designated Gog and Magog zones potentially provided specific territorial relevance for these symbolic revelations. Siberian UFO phenomena intensify portal mystique through incidents including the 1986 Dalnegorsk crash, where spherical objects left exotic metallic residues analyzed as non-terrestrial materials near former Tartarian territorial boundaries. Contemporary social media documentation shows unidentified aerial craft over Siberian lake systems, connecting to ancient Stargate theories and Sumerian traditions describing Anunnaki deity figures, potentially representing true forms of Gog and Magog entities accessing terrestrial dimensions through constructed gateway systems. Theoretical frameworks blend demonic and extraterrestrial interpretations where revelations deceived nations represent hybrid entities utilizing portal technologies to infiltrate and corrupt Tartarian civilization before launching direct assault operations. These infiltration strategies potentially caused internal societal deterioration preceding physical confrontations, explaining civilization collapse patterns that preceded mud flood catastrophes and systematic historical erasure operations. Speculative research positions Tartaria as the prophetic millennial kingdom referenced in biblical eschatology, where Gog and Magog's post-millennial assault aligns temporally with geological catastrophes, including mud flood liquefaction events and civilizational reset operations that eliminated advanced technological capabilities and harmonious social structures, threatening emerging control systems. Historical cartographic evidence, including 1684 territorial designations explicitly labeling Gog and Magog within Tartarian boundaries, raises questions about conventional dismissals of these connections. Medieval sources, including the Catalan Atlas, portray these entities as cannibalistic populations contained behind constructed barriers, with Alexander's legendary gates potentially representing portal containment systems rather than conventional military fortifications. Contemporary investigations explore biblical connections suggesting Tartaria functioned as Christian kingdom territory that faced destruction by satanic forces operating through supernatural infiltration and dimensional invasion techniques. These theoretical frameworks propose that Tartarian civilization represented divine kingdom establishment that required elimination through prophetic adversarial forces to prevent alternative social and technological development trajectories. The Siberian wilderness regions continue displaying unexplained phenomena, including UFO sightings that potentially represent portal activity echoes or monitoring operations by entities maintaining interest in former Tartarian territories. Ancient gateway installations theorized at Egyptian and Peruvian locations mirror potential Siberian portal systems that Tartarian populations allegedly guarded until facing overwhelming invasion by interdimensional adversaries. The orphan train phenomenon operating between 1854 and 1929 represents another layer of systematic population manipulation that potentially connected to post-Tartarian repopulation efforts following civilizational reset operations. These transportation networks relocated an estimated 250,000 children from eastern metropolitan areas to rural frontier territories through organizations including the Children's Aid Society and New York Foundling Hospital, creating demographic redistribution patterns that conspiracy researchers interpret as calculated replacement programs rather than humanitarian initiatives. The operational scale raises profound questions about authentic motivations behind these mass relocations, particularly regarding transportation of children without parental consent or thorough verification processes. If these movements weren't addressing legitimate orphan populations but instead facilitating repopulation of territories emptied through cataclysmic events like mud floods or plasma strikes against Tartarian civilization, the humanitarian narrative becomes cover for systematic demographic engineering. Charles Loring Brace's Children's Aid Society, established in 1853, positioned train operations as salvation from urban poverty by relocating youth populations to Midwestern agricultural regions where they became laborers or adoptive family members. However, archival investigations reveal inconsistencies, including many transported children having living parents unable to afford care, while others appeared suddenly in documentation following regional disasters. Period newspaper criticism described these operations as child trafficking, where transported individuals faced auction-style selection processes at destination stations, resembling livestock trading rather than humanitarian placement services. Within Tartarian conspiracy frameworks, these activities tie to mud flood aftermath scenarios where vast urban complexes face depopulation, leaving advanced architectural infrastructure requiring fresh inhabitants to occupy and obscure evidence of previous civilizations' technological capabilities. The systematic relocation of eastern metropolitan youth populations into heartland territories containing unexplained architectural structures raises profound questions about operational urgency behind these demographic movements. Why did organizations prioritize dispersing immigrant offspring specifically into regions where Tartarian-style buildings dominated local landscapes without adequate historical documentation? This geographical correlation suggests intentional placement strategies designed to populate areas containing advanced infrastructure that required explanation and occupation by populations without cultural memory of previous inhabitants. Secret societies weave intricate patterns throughout this historical tapestry, with none more enigmatic than the Independent Order of Oddfellows, a fraternal organization emerging during the early 19th century, precisely coinciding with proposed reset operations. Their lodge network expanded rapidly across territories displaying suspicious architectural anomalies, establishing institutional missions focused on visiting sick populations, relieving distressed communities, burying deceased members, and critically, educating orphaned children through specialized facilities. Oddfellows orphanages proliferated throughout the landscape during this period, housing foundling populations amid symbolic representations of three interconnected links representing friendship, love, and truth. However, conspiracy research reframes these charitable institutions as reset operational centers designed to collect surviving Tartarian descendant children for systematic indoctrination into new social order paradigms that would eliminate cultural memory of previous advanced civilizations. Their ritualistic practices maintained secretive protocols similar to Freemasonic traditions, involving initiation ceremonies featuring skeletal symbolism and moral dramatic presentations that echoed ancient mystery school methodologies. Freemasons, with their distinctive square and compass emblems frequently displayed on Tartarian-style architectural structures, face accusations of orchestrating train transportation networks through established lodge systems that facilitated strategic child distribution programs designed to repopulate emptied urban centers. Archaeological investigations of Oddfellows meeting halls frequently reveal buried basement levels containing anomalous artifacts that mirror mud flood structural characteristics, suggesting these installations occupied pre-existing facilities rather than representing original construction projects. The organizational focus on orphan populations gains sinister implications when examined within frameworks of systematic population replacement operations targeting specific demographic groups for elimination and substitution. The Cabbage Patch folklore phenomenon adds bizarre dimensions to these demographic manipulation theories. Late 19th century World's Fair exhibitions showcased incubator displays featuring premature infant populations allegedly sourced through orphan train networks, creating public spectacles where human development became commodified entertainment. These infantoriums at venues like the 1904 St. Louis Exposition officially provided medical care that saved lives, but generated persistent rumors regarding cloned or artificially manufactured children designed to repopulate post-reset territorial voids. Traditional folklore connecting babies to cabbage plant origins reflected agricultural fertility symbolism, but conspiracy frameworks link these traditions to theoretical Tartarian biotechnology applications, where advanced gestation systems mimicked natural reproductive processes to rapidly replenish decimated populations. Historical photography from this era displaying empty urban streets, despite grand architectural backgrounds, suggests post-cataclysmic desolation that required demographic infusion through train-transported youth populations with suppressed or eliminated memory patterns. Official explanations attribute empty street photography to extended exposure times that blurred crowd movements. But theoretical analysis questions why no static figures appear. If these metropolitan areas maintained active populations, alternative interpretations propose these images document genuine post-reset aftermath conditions where former urban centers remained largely uninhabited until orphan train arrivals provided necessary demographic foundation for renewed occupation and cultural development. Illuminati influence operates through shadowy networks blending Freemasonic traditions with global control agendas, allegedly utilizing fraternal societies like Odd Fellows to orchestrate systematic reset operations. Founded in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, the Bavarian Illuminati infiltrated established Masonic organizations while their symbolic eye and pyramid representations on currency systems hint at ongoing Tartarian suppression through financial control mechanisms. Conspiracy theories propose these organizations engineered orphan train operations to reset demographic compositions by eliminating Tartarian bloodlines while installing compliant generational populations lacking cultural memory of alternative social structures or advanced technological capabilities. Foundling hospitals featuring distinctive old-world architectural characteristics became operational hubs where abandoned infants entered revolving door systems before train transportation to frontier destinations with deliberately obscured origins. The suspicious proliferation of asylum institutions following 1850s timelines coinciding with proposed mud flood events suggests coordinated programs designed to contain populations displaying knowledge or capabilities that threaten new social order implementations. Personal testimonies from train rider descendants frequently described fragmented family narratives containing unexplained heritage gaps that suggest systematically erased historical connections to suppressed civilizations. Individual accounts include great-grandparent stories describing dugout-dwelling origins that imply post-flood extraction scenarios, while other family histories connect train transportation to broader Tartarian repopulation efforts, using children as demographic restoration instruments. Video analyses examine incubator baby displays at historical fairs, questioning whether these represented cloning applications derived from suppressed Tartarian biotechnological knowledge rather than conventional medical interventions. Odd Fellows' organizational focus on educating fatherless populations potentially masked operational roles within demographic engineering programs, with lodge locations strategically positioned near major train routes to facilitate systematic distribution processes. Freemasonic parallels strengthen when examining both groups' emphasis on brotherhood and charitable activities, yet conspiracy research accuses them of serving elite control agendas through orphan population manipulation designed to construct compliant social structures. Masonic symbolic presence in train-era architectural structures suggests coordinated oversight operations, while ritualistic practices echo potential Tartarian mystery tradition preservation through controlled dissemination among selected populations. Illuminati orchestration theories propose population reset maintenance strategies that ensure continued power concentration through systematic cultural memory elimination and replacement with approved historical narratives. The 1929 cessation of orphan train operations coincides with post-World War demographic stabilization periods, suggesting these programs serve temporary functions during transitional reset phases. Australian home children programs mirror American patterns through British colonial child transportation to populate territories requiring demographic infusion following potential reset operations, indicating global coordination rather than isolated national policies. Contemporary debunkers present compelling counterarguments rooted in conventional historical documentation and linguistic analysis, arguing that Tartaria never represented unified advanced empire, but functioned as broad archaic terminology used by European cartographers to designate vast, largely unexplored Central Asian and Siberian territories. From 13th century documentation onward, Tartaria encompassed regions inhabited by nomadic populations, including Tatars, Mongols, and Turkish groups, spanning from Caspian Sea coastlines to Pacific Ocean boundaries. Historical maps from 1500s through 1800s, including documentation by Giacomo Cantelli da Vignola and Giovanni Botero, consistently depicted these territories not as singular civilizations possessing advanced technologies, but as fragmented collections of khanates and steppe cultures often colored vaguely to indicate geographical uncertainty rather than technological mastery. The Russian Geographical Society has explicitly refuted conspiracy theories through sharing numerous historical cartographic examples, showing Tartary as placeholder terminology for regions under Mongol influence or subsequent Russian territorial expansion. Academic skeptics emphasize that cartographic disappearance from modern atlases simply reflects improved geographical knowledge combined with term obsolescence, as political boundaries became clearly defined through imperial expansion and diplomatic treaties. Critical analysts note conspiracy theory origins tracing back to Russian pseudoscientific movements, particularly Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology developed during the 1970s, which radically compresses historical timelines, while discrediting Western historical scholarship to elevate Russian nationalist narratives. Fomenko's theoretical frameworks, popularized by occult writers including Nikolai Levashov, portray Tartaria as suppressed real Russia, deliberately ignored by Western academic institutions. Narratives that scholarly communities dismiss as extremist fantasy, lacking credible evidence. Linguistic analysis reveals how the additional rare in Tartar evoked Tartarus, the Greek underworld concept, creating European prejudice that characterized the region as barbaric rather than advanced, combining with general ignorance of Asian historical developments to generate mythological interpretations. Well-documented traveler accounts from explorers including Marco Polo and Russian expeditionary forces reveal no evidence of free energy systems, crystalline architecture, or giant builders throughout these territories, instead describing nomadic herding societies and traditional Khanate political structures consistent with conventional historical understanding of Central Asian civilizations. The mud flood hypothesis, central to Tartarian conspiracy theories, faces complete dissolution under geological and urban planning scrutiny. Proponents claim global liquefied soil deluges during mid-1800s periods buried Tartarian urban centers, transforming basement levels into former ground floors, while positioning windows at contemporary sidewalk elevations. However, urban development experts attribute buried architectural features to practical city planning initiatives including street elevation, the sanitation improvements, as documented in Seattle's 1889 regrading projects following fire and flood damage, or Chicago's post-1871 elevation programs designed to address sewage management challenges. No widespread geological evidence supports singular planet-wide mud event theories, with local flooding, volcanic ash deposition, and human engineering projects providing adequate explanations for architectural anomalies attributed to global catastrophes. Scientific publications note how conspiracy believers systematically misinterpret 19th century construction techniques, such as staff plaster applications over wooden framework for temporary World's Fair buildings, as evidence of ancient technological origins while ignoring extensive photographic archives documenting scaffolding systems and construction worker activities. Giant humanoid theories receive similar scientific debunking through paleontological and anthropological analysis. Newspaper reports from 1800s periods describing 9-foot skeletal discoveries frequently proved fraudulent or resulted from misidentified mammoth bone remains, with Smithsonian Institution clarifying that no such specimens exist within their collections, attributing missing documentation to poor preservation conditions rather than conspiratorial concealment operations. The institutional response to Tartarian theories reflects broader academic approaches to pseudo-historical claims that lack evidential support while promoting alternative explanations that contradict established archaeological and historical scholarship. However, the persistence of these theories despite debunking efforts suggests deeper psychological and cultural needs that conventional explanations fail to address, creating ongoing tension between institutional knowledge systems and popular alternative historical narratives. Evolutionary biological research confirms that human height averages haven't experienced dramatic transformations across historical periods, with exceptional cases like Robert Wadlow representing rare medical anomalies rather than evidence of distinct giant racial populations. Biblical references to Nephilim or Greek mythological titans function as cultural explanations for natural phenomena or fossil discoveries, rather than historical documentation of actual oversized humanoid civilizations that dominated ancient landscapes. Academic institutions emphasize how pseudo-historical claims systematically ignore well-documented Asian historical developments, from Mongol Empire conquests that reshaped continental boundaries to indigenous Siberian cultural traditions that provide rich narrative contexts extending across millennia. Reducing these complex civilizational developments to fantasy narratives undermines legitimate archaeological and anthropological scholarship, while promoting misconceptions about historical human development patterns. Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse series on Netflix, frequently cited by conspiracy believers as validation for alternative historical theories, faces similar academic debunking through archaeological analysis that challenges selective data interpretation while ignoring radiocarbon dating methodologies. Hancock's theories position Ice Age cataclysms as destroyers of advanced prehistoric societies, linking sites like Göbekli Tepe to hypothetical lost knowledge systems that predate conventional civilization timelines. However, professional archaeologists criticize these approaches for cherry-picking evidence while disregarding comprehensive radiocarbon dating that accurately places Göbekli Tepe's construction at approximately 11,000 years ago, representing hunter-gatherer populations developing increasing social complexity rather than inheriting advanced technological knowledge from vanished civilizations. The Society of American Archaeology has formally condemned such series as pseudo-scientific content that undermines indigenous historical achievements by attributing cultural developments to mysterious external influences. Claims regarding censorship or institutional suppression of alternative historical theories stem from scholarly pushback against methodologically flawed research rather than coordinated knowledge concealment operations. Hancock's publications achieve massive commercial success with millions of copies sold worldwide, demonstrating that alternative historical theories face no systematic suppression, but rather critical evaluation through established academic peer review processes. Educational systems receive criticism within conspiracy frameworks for allegedly concealing ancient truths, while maintaining social control structures through Eurocentric curricula that emphasize Greek and Roman developments, while minimizing Asian historical contributions. Believers question why educational programs gloss over Central Asian civilizations, suggesting deliberate omissions designed to perpetuate Western cultural dominance while suppressing evidence of alternative developmental pathways. Academic responses emphasize that educational content evolves continuously based on archaeological evidence and historical research developments, with Tartari's removal from contemporary curricula reflecting term obsolescence rather than malicious concealment. The geographical designation fell into disuse as improved cartographic knowledge eliminated the need for vague territorial labels that once represented poorly understood regions. Pseudo-historical theories pose legitimate dangers through fostering institutional distrust that can evolve into extremist ideologies where benign architectural mysteries like Tartarian speculation transform into supremacist narratives, romanticizing racially pure ancient civilizations allegedly erased by inferior populations. These dangerous trajectories mirror other conspiracy theory developments that begin with historical curiosity but escalate into divisive social movements. The cartographic consistency question regarding historical maps depicting Tartarian territories receives explanation through documented copying practices where cartographers perpetuated geographical errors across multiple publications until accurate surveying corrected misconceptions. California's island depiction persisted across numerous maps until exploratory expeditions definitively established its continental connection, demonstrating how cartographic mistakes propagated through information networks before correction. Educational oversight regarding diverse historical traditions might represent institutional limitations rather than conspiratorial concealment, but legitimate questions arise about curricular priorities that emphasize certain civilizations while marginalizing others. Hancock's series, despite methodological flaws, generates increased interest in underrepresented archaeological sites, while challenging established academic paradigms through popular media exposure. Contemporary debates rage across digital platforms including Reddit's history communities, where users frequently mock Tartarian theories as QAnon of architecture, while others seriously examine rapid 19th century construction achievements, wondering whether lost building techniques might explain seemingly impossible architectural timelines. Cultural analysts interpret these phenomena as discontent with modernist aesthetics, favoring traditional architectural grandeur over contemporary minimalist designs. However, significant dangers accompany pseudo-historical movements through erosion of institutional trust paralleling anti-vaccination campaigns that slow scientific progress by demanding extraordinary proof for well-established facts. This creates polarized environments where legitimate questioning transforms into wholesale dismissal, while curiosity faces suppression through ridicule rather than reasoned discussion. The ongoing debate between evidence-based analysis and conspiracy speculation continues, generating tension between debunkers offering documentation of Tartaria as geographical terminology, mud floods as localized events, and giants as mythological constructs, while believers counter with architectural anomalies, uniform global building styles, suppressed patent claims, and educational gaps that suggest systematic knowledge concealment. Perhaps the most significant danger lies in intellectual polarization, where questioning methodologies become dismissive attitudes and curiosity faces curtailment through social pressure, rather than engaging with evidence. As investigative threads continue unraveling, consideration must address why Tartarian theories generate such emotional resonance, whether representing yearning for lost wonder in disposable consumer culture, or indicating subtle truths embedded within pseudo-historical narratives. Academic gatekeeping tensions emerge through conflicts between institutional knowledge preservation and open exploratory methodologies, while educational systems evolve slowly compared to rapid mythological acceleration through online echo chambers that amplify alternative theories without critical evaluation. Pseudo-historical dangers include supporting extremist movements like Hyperborean narratives connecting to white supremacist ideologies that romanticize Aryan historical periods allegedly erased by inferior populations. The persistent appeal of thoroughly debunked theories might indicate educational system failures in hiding diverse historical traditions or fundamental human psychological needs for mystery within increasingly mundane technological environments. Cartographic consistency continues intriguing researchers who question whether apparent copying errors might instead represent concealed historical unity across cultures that conventional scholarship fails to acknowledge. Ancient archaeological sites like Göbekli Tepe challenge established historical timelines while educational institutions remain slow to integrate new discoveries, creating gaps between cutting-edge research and public knowledge that conspiracy theories exploit through alternative explanatory frameworks. The Netflix backlash regarding Hancock's series highlights ongoing tensions between censorship accusations and legitimate pseudo-scientific critique within academic communities. As we approach the conclusion of this Tartarian exploration, the shadowed legacy continues manifesting through subtle modern echoes that transcend museum curiosities to become living threads woven into contemporary possibility frameworks. These remnants invite envisioning futures where ancient empire harmonies might achieve reclamation through careful investigation and technological application rather than nostalgic romanticism. The scattered fragments of Tartarian civilization manifest through persistent anomalies that challenge everyday perceptual frameworks, including star fortresses displaying unexplained electromagnetic pulse activity during solar flare events, ancient dome structures where compass readings become erratic, and architectural ruins where visitors report psychic impressions or unexplained thermal phenomena, suggesting lingering energetic imprints within stone materials. These phenomena represent more than tourist curiosities by potentially demonstrating civilization approaches that balance technological advancement with spiritual development, offering hope that contemporary society might transcend current divisive patterns while rediscovering unity principles that once powered global Renaissance periods. Survivors of Tartarian destruction, resilient populations emerging from mudflood catastrophes and plasma storm events, potentially carried civilizational fragments into modern contexts through folklore preservation, genetic memory transmission, or subtle architectural influence on contemporary urban development. Historical accounts, frequently dismissed as fantastical narratives, describe mysterious wanderers from Eastern territories arriving in European and American regions during early 19th century periods, bearing unusual artifacts including crystal formations displaying luminescent properties under lunar illumination, cartographic documents featuring unfamiliar constellation patterns, and testimonies regarding airship technologies that achieved harmonic interaction with aurora phenomena. These accounts might represent descendant populations seeding hope through oral traditions that evolved into mythological accounts of hidden kingdoms like Shambhala or Agartha theoretical inner earth realms, where Tartarian knowledge systems endure through protected sanctuary environments. Contemporary psychic practitioners and remote viewing sessions documented through alternative media channels claim contact with these historical echoes through visionary experiences involving towering figures transmitting free energy principles, while urging humanity toward avoiding cyclical to collapse patterns that destroyed previous advanced civilizations. The cyclical framework outlined in 5 era theories portrays historical development not as linear progression but as recurring wave patterns, where golden ages of enlightenment face inevitable collapse into reset periods of cultural oblivion. Each recovery cycle enables humanity to rebuild with diminished capabilities compared to previous achievements, creating regressive patterns that challenge conventional progress narratives. Tartaria represented the 4th era's developmental pinnacle, rising from pyramid building and stellar architectural traditions to achieve societal symphonies, balancing individual development with collective harmony through freely flowing energy systems. Conflicts received resolution through resonance methodologies rather than force application, but infiltration by malevolent entities, whether interpreted as Gog and Magog hordes or metaphorical demons representing greed and division, triggered systematic destruction patterns that mirror contemporary environmental crises and social fragmentation. Breaking these cyclical patterns requires studying remnant evidence to harness latent star fortress energies through modern resonance device applications for clean power generation or decoding psychic remnants within ancient ruins to unlock forgotten healing frequency applications. Archaeological discoveries in Siberian territories might reveal Tartarian storage facilities containing crystal arrays aligned with planetary energy grid intersections, activating under specific lunar phases to produce measurable electrical output, as reported in obscure scientific journals from recent decades. These anomalous discoveries suggest Tartarian technology wasn't completely destroyed, but remains dormant, awaiting properly attuned consciousness to reactivate systems designed for sustainable energy production and healing applications. Conspiracy research communities circulate accounts of classified government facilities experimenting with such discoveries through reverse engineering projects designed to power secret installations while suppressing public access to maintain artificial scarcity conditions. However, this situation generates optimism through whistleblower testimonies and independent researcher demonstrations, showing successful replication of atmospheric energy harvesting through modified Tesla coil configurations, suggesting humanity stands at the threshold of reclaiming technological legacies that could facilitate transition from current plastic consumption era toward renewed golden age development patterns. Psychic remnants add intimate wonder dimensions to these investigations through visitor experiences at locations including Bosnian pyramid complexes or Scottish vitrified fortress sites, where individuals report vivid dream states following site visits that seemingly enable reliving Tartarian daily experiences. These visions describe communities gathering beneath dome structures that amplified collective consciousness for collaborative problem-solving applications, suggesting advanced social technologies that integrated spiritual development with material achievement. Airships traversing continental boundaries without physical barriers represent more than historical curiosities or hallucinatory experiences. They embody tangible connections to consciousness technologies that parapsychological research, despite academic controversy, continues documenting through elevated theta brainwave patterns recorded at specific geographical locations. These electromagnetic signatures potentially indicate imprinted consciousness phenomena, where advanced civilizations embedded experiential knowledge within environmental matrices through resonance technologies that modern science barely comprehends. Hope emerges from these discoveries through recognition that accessing these psychic echoes might become possible through meditation practices combined with biofeedback technologies that attune human consciousness to residual frequency patterns. If contemporary researchers can decode these imprinted blueprints through technological interfaces, humanity might recover sustainable living methodologies while avoiding the technological hubris that allegedly doomed previous advanced civilizations through cyclical reset mechanisms. Educational system transformation plays pivotal roles in this reclamation process, where current institutional frameworks accused of concealing alternative historical narratives could evolve to incorporate Tartarian philosophical principles, teaching cyclical rise and fall patterns that foster civilizational resilience. Contemporary curricula might integrate Hancock's cataclysmic theories alongside conventional historical timelines, encouraging students to question established paradigms while developing innovative approaches to technological and social development challenges. While pseudo-historical movements pose legitimate dangers through fostering institutional mistrust and extremist ideologies, online communities spanning Reddit's Tartarian discussion threads to Discord servers analyzing mud flood evidence already demonstrate positive potentials through crowdsourced research methodologies that challenge academic dogmas while proposing practical solutions, including community energy grid systems inspired by Star Fortress geometric principles. The scattered remnants extend beyond architectural anomalies into cultural artifacts, including Siberian tribal folk music, featuring melodic patterns that induce trance states, potentially preserving Tartarian acoustic technologies through oral tradition preservation. Crop circle formations displaying ancient geometric correspondences might represent communication attempts from survivor-descendant populations encouraging unity responses to contemporary global crises, including climate change scenarios that echo Atlantean submersion narratives. Rising oceanic water levels paralleling Atlantis' legendary destruction could inspire hope through Tartarian adaptive strategies, where airship transportation symbolized mobility solutions during crisis periods, while crystalline energy systems prefigured contemporary solar power innovations that transcend fossil fuel dependencies. However, forward progress demands cautious approaches, recognizing that reclaiming free energy technologies could disrupt existing economic structures, potentially sparking resistance from entrenched power systems that historically suppressed over-unity device patents to maintain artificial scarcity conditions. Conspiracy warnings regarding impending reset operations create atmospheric tension, but hope counters through collective action initiatives, including grassroots movements, building off-grid communities that experiment with resonance technologies designed to heal environmental damage from industrial excess, while developing sustainable alternatives to destructive economic models. As potential descendants of Tartarian survivors, contemporary human populations might carry genetic legacies that enhance intuitive capabilities or environmental resilience through unexplained DNA markers discovered in Eurasian demographic studies. Genetic research revealing anomalous chromosomal patterns in specific populations suggests inherited capabilities that could be activated through proper consciousness development techniques, while psychic exploration methods similar to Edgar Case's Akashic record readings propose universal information access that provides blueprints for harmonious future civilizations. These investigations create tapestries connecting scattered remnants with aspirational possibilities, positioning Tartaria not as nostalgic lamentation, but as practical beacon whose cycle-breaking potential remains active through persistent anomalies, preserved myths, and innate human curiosity that drives discovery processes. Star fortresses scattered across global landscapes from European territories to American continental regions continue demonstrating their enduring legacy through structural remnants that exhibit unexplained electromagnetic phenomena, even in deteriorated conditions. Modern investigators, utilizing advanced field detection equipment, record anomalous energy surges during geomagnetic storm events at locations including Fort Monroe in Virginia and the Citadel of Besançon in France, where electromagnetic readings spike dramatically as though fortress geometric configurations continue channeling ambient planetary forces through architectural design principles. Theoretical researchers speculate these installations function as dormant energy generation systems originally designed by Tartarian engineers to extract power from Earth's leyline networks, potentially reactivatable through contemporary technological enhancements, including piezoelectric amplification systems. Community initiatives could retrofit these fortress structures into localized microgrid networks, producing clean electricity that powers residential areas without fossil fuel consumption, representing direct reclamation of suppressed free energy principles that could address climate change challenges while breaking dependency on scarcity-driven economic systems. Pilot projects documented in specialized engineering publications experiment with similar geometric configurations yielding modest but promising electrical outputs, suggesting scalable applications that could combat environmental degradation through sustainable energy production methods. These initiatives offer tangible hope that ancient wisdom can inform contemporary solutions to pressing ecological and economic crises facing global civilization. Psychic remnants preserved within ancient ruins add profoundly personal dimensions to historical reclamation efforts, where visitors to Tartarian-linked archaeological sites report consciousness experiences that transcend conventional temporal boundaries. The Bosnian Pyramid Complex, consisting of massive geological formations theorized as artificial constructs containing extensive underground tunnel networks, generates tourist testimonies describing vivid intuitive experiences or dream sequences following site visits that seemingly enable reliving communal gatherings beneath resonant dome structures, fostering empathy and innovative thinking. Parapsychological research, despite academic marginalization, documents elevated alpha brainwave patterns at these locations, suggesting stone materials retain imprinted consciousness from historical periods when society prioritized spiritual harmony alongside technological advancement. These discoveries generate optimism that biofeedback applications and meditation retreat programs at such sites could unlock embedded wisdom patterns, teaching contemporary minds to access collective knowledge for conflict resolution and creative breakthrough applications. Therapeutic session programs conducted within ancient cathedral complexes, utilizing their sophisticated acoustic chamber properties, might harness these consciousness remnants to heal contemporary social divisions through techniques that echo Tartarian balanced philosophical approaches. This represents practical hope that historical legacies can inform modern healing methodologies, addressing current civilization challenges through consciousness expansion techniques. Hope extends into free energy reclamation efforts, representing cornerstone principles of alleged Tartarian advancement, where atmospheric and crystalline technologies provided unlimited power generation without environmental degradation. Contemporary inventors inspired by Tesla's suppressed research designs, potentially rooted in recovered Tartarian knowledge systems, develop experimental devices including atmospheric electricity harvesters that extract usable voltage from ambient electrical fields during thunderstorm events. Crowd-funded prototype projects appearing on platforms like Kickstarter demonstrate promising results, generating sufficient power output to illuminate residential structures through off-grid applications that challenge thermodynamic skeptics who dismiss such innovations as pseudoscientific fantasies. Underground researcher networks share technical blueprints through online platforms, circumventing patent suppression mechanisms attributed to corporate monopolies while fostering grassroots technological revolution movements. These developments suggest potential futures where residential rooftop installations mimic Tartarian dome configurations, capturing solar and atmospheric energies to fuel equitable social structures that break historical reset cycles by democratizing power access and preventing elite hoarding mechanisms that characterized previous civilizational collapses. Survivor legacies provide human depth to these technological visions through oral historical traditions preserved by Siberian indigenous communities, describing ancestral figures who traversed mud-covered landscapes, carrying knowledge of harmonious living practices that continue influencing shamanic traditions. Genetic studies reveal unexplained markers in Eurasian populations displaying higher mitochondrial diversity patterns, suggesting ancient migration events following cataclysmic periods, potentially indicating Tartarian bloodline influences that enhance individual resilience or intuitive capabilities. These discoveries offer hope for bioengineering applications where CRISPR advancement techniques could amplify inherited traits, fostering generational populations naturally attuned to environmental balance principles that avoid technological hubris, contributing to previous civilizational failures. Community initiatives, including eco-village developments in Mongolian steppe regions, historically part of Tartarian territorial designations, blend traditional yurt architectural designs with contemporary solar crystal technologies, creating sustainable living models that honor historical wisdom while embracing future possibilities. The five-era cyclical framework provides philosophical foundations for optimistic projections, positioning current plastic-dominated civilization as transitional phase, preparing for evolutionary advancement into sixth-era development, where synthesized lessons from previous golden ages inform resilient urban designs. Contemporary societies might engineer floating habitat structures on rising oceanic levels, inspired by Atlantean maritime technologies, or develop underground community networks, echoing theoretical Lemurian cavern systems that provided sanctuary during reset periods. Educational reform initiatives could accelerate these transformations through virtual reality simulation programs, recreating Tartarian social experiences, teaching empathy and innovation to youth populations, while countering alleged curriculum suppression effects documented in current institutional frameworks. Online communities already pioneer these approaches through blending Hancock's cataclysmic research with practical energy experimentation projects, empowering individual contributions to cycle-breaking efforts that transcend institutional limitations. However, optimistic projections require cautious balance, recognizing that historical remnants warn against infiltration scenarios where malevolent forces symbolized by Gog and Magog entities could resurface through digital manipulation systems, utilizing artificial intelligence technologies to enforce new divisive social structures. Conspiracy theory dangers include pseudo-historical movements that distract attention from genuine environmental threats, including climate-driven reset scenarios, but properly channeled alternative research fuels innovative approaches through grassroots movements, spanning permaculture agricultural systems to free energy cooperative organizations that embody balanced philosophical approaches, reclaiming Tartarian wisdom without succumbing to paranoid extremism. Cultural revival initiatives add vibrancy to reclamation efforts through festivals at ancient sites, recreating Tartarian harmonic traditions using sound bath techniques in cathedral locations, where participants report creative breakthrough experiences suggesting psychic activation potentials. Art installations mimicking crop circle geometric patterns serve as public portals, inspiring environmental activism, while connecting contemporary consciousness to potential descendant communication attempts from survivor populations. Siberian ecotourism programs revive shamanic ceremonial practices combined with technological applications monitoring ley line systems for energy harvesting applications, creating bridges between traditional wisdom and contemporary innovation that honor both historical legacies and future possibilities. Ultimate hope resides in unity principles, where Tartarian remnants teach that thriving societies emerge when individual development aligns with collective harmony. Essential lessons for contemporary polarized global civilization. Archaeological investigations utilizing applications analyzing electronic voice phenomena, recordings at fortress locations, might foster international dialogue processes, transforming anomalous discoveries into shared research collaborations. International cooperative efforts could potentially unearth sealed vault systems revealing technical blueprints for anti-gravity airship technologies that enable stellar exploration while simultaneously healing terrestrial environmental damage through advanced restoration methodologies. As inheritors of these multifaceted legacies, contemporary humanity stands at civilizational crossroads, requiring choices between succumbing to historical cycles or forging unprecedented advancement pathways through reclaiming free energy systems that power equitable future societies. The persistent anomalies, including luminescent crystal formations in museum collections and electromagnetic resonance phenomena at fortress locations during storm events, serve as constant reminders that transformational hope remains latent rather than lost, awaiting human initiative to activate dormant potentials that could revolutionize planetary civilization development. These enduring mysteries invite restful contemplation, while dreaming of remnant legacies that contemporary action might yet revive through conscious engagement with suppressed wisdom traditions in innovative technological applications that honor both historical achievements and future aspirational possibilities for humanity's continued evolution. Rest peacefully with these whispers of possibility, knowing that every mystery explored brings us closer to reclaiming the harmony that once illuminated our world. The echoes of Tartaria continue calling to those who dare to dream of what humanity might yet become.